What time's class?
6 o'clock.
All right. We'll be fast.
We're going to be good. We got this.
This is Behind the Law with Justin Clark on ESPN 580 Orlando.
And welcome to the program. It's another edition of Behind the Law right here on ESPN 580 Orlando. Thank you for spending your evenings here with us on our favorite sports radio station, 8 o'clock p.m. every single weeknight. You can also watch the television programs this weekend and every single weekend. Saturday, 12:30 p.m. over on CBS, it is You Have Real Estate with me, attorney Justin Clark. And then Sunday mornings, TV 27 at 10 a.m. It is this show Behind the Law, but it's Behind the Law on television, and that is where you can see the young lady to my right, my good friend and co-host, the beautiful Brianna. Hello, Brianna.
Hello, Justin.
How you doing?
Awesome.
All right. You can also watch us when we record the show at Behind the Law Radio on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even
Twitch. It's Twitch.
I don't know how to log on to Twitch, to be honest with you.
You don't have to.
How do you even do Twitch? I don't get it.
It's just like YouTube. I don't know why there's trying to be this disconnect. It's the same thing. It's just YouTube.
Very special show for you tonight. Anna Eskamani is here. You're a rock star, first of all. And welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Justin.
So you went from, almost unknown 2 years ago to literally being a rock star here locally. Let's be honest. I mean, how do you feel when people know you? There is something about you that people love. I can't put my finger on it, but people adore you, don't they?
I mean, you go to my Facebook, you see a lot of trolls there too.
Is that right?
But I mean, I think that my story is the Orlando story, and it's our story, and I think that folks feel like they own a piece of it, as they should.
Member of the Florida House of Reps, 47th District. Where were you sitting when you were doing your regular Anna stuff before you ever became a politician, when you said, you know what? I'm going to run for office. How does this happen?
So every person has their story. Folks might know that I actually worked at Planned Parenthood before. So I grew up in Orlando. I'm a working class daughter of immigrants from Iran. Went to University High School over on the east side of town. And really, my family went through a lot of struggle. I mean, my mom passed away when I was 13. My parents worked their entire lives to achieve the American dream, never reaching it. And so I actually found myself walking into a Planned Parenthood health center by myself when I was 18 years old looking for birth control, and went to college at UCF, got really involved in organizing. All of that brought me to 2016, which I was really engaged in politics. Like, I was part of the local Democratic Party. I was volunteering on campaigns. I was sitting on nonprofit boards. But to your point, never thought I'd run for office before. But my catalyst was grounded in two things. One was a love for my hometown, our sweet town of Orlando, alongside the election of President Trump. And no matter where you lie on that political spectrum, I do feel like his campaign tactics were very divisive. It was really separating us versus bringing us together. And that's not the America that I know.
I have so many Iranian friends, like I was telling you before, and I adore each and every one of them. For just something about my friends from Iran, and really hardworking people, too. And a lot of my Iranian friends have the story about, was it late 70s, early 80s when the government was going through the Civil War? And literally, they just came in and stole their property. I mean, they would come take their businesses away. And it seems like a lot of them ended up in Florida here. But how did that happen over Iran? Where literally the government just came in and stole their property.
I mean, it was the 1979 Islamic Revolution that has the Iran that we know today. And it is very frustrating. And the reality is that Iran has had a pretty remarkable history of a lot of interference from other countries that have placed Iran in serious places of making decisions, and the decision's always a bad one. Because even when the Shah was in power before what we have now as the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, it was still very much a controlled government where if you questioned the Shah, you could have been punished. So it's been a very difficult journey for Iran, because even today, people wanted the Ayatollah to be in power in Iran. I mean, there were protests in this country for that.
Right.
And then it happened, and folks were like, oh, wait, we didn't want this. And so here we are. decades later, in a country that lacks complete freedom of the press, that has huge human rights violations, property was stolen when the power was turned over, and at this point, majority of Iranians were born post-revolution. They don't even remember it. They don't care about it.
Right.
They want to live life like the rest of us.
Exactly.
And I'm very hopeful that we can have better relations with Iran and that we can support soft power to have another revolution in Iran that's people-driven, that really creates a democracy that the people deserve.
Behind the Law, ESPN 580 Orlando, Justin Clark here, the beautiful Brianna as well, joined by Anna Eskamani. She's a member of the Florida House of Representatives, 47th District. What is running a campaign like? Because I think, I've been involved with a lot of elected people, so I've seen it from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I don't think the general public knows how much work, energy, time, effort goes into really running a campaign. Tell me about it.
It's funny. Folks ask all the time, is your life more like Veep or like, other political shows that are more serious? And I'm like, oh no, it's definitely like Veep. Like you have more Veep moments than anything else.
Right.
And so it's a constant hustle. I mean, even as I sit here right now, like I am thinking about fundraising because we're already raising money for 2020. It just never stops. And keep in mind that this is a part-time legislature, so you're only in Tallahassee for about 4 to 5 months of the year,
right.
but it's really a full-time job. Our phones are ringing 24/7. People are calling, texting me, for constituent services. You're working on policy 24/7. And yet you're paid $30,000 for this part-time role. So I also work full-time on top of this. I'm getting my PhD and,
That's
of course,
it?
campaigning.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I think campaigning is one of the best ways to build resiliency.
Yeah.
Throwing yourself in a place where you are absolutely held accountable by others. There's just something so profound about that, and the relationships you build along the way, the growth that you personally experience along the way. I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
And one of the things about running a campaign is they are expensive. So at some point you have to get out there and you actually literally have to ask people for money. I mean, you have to. And one of the things about running a law firm here is I have other lawyers here, and really it's hard for lawyers sometimes when a client comes in to, for us to help with the IRS problems. It's uncomfortable for them to ask that client for money, but you have to pay a retainer or whatever, and it's uncomfortable. How did you adjust to really getting out on the trail and literally having to ask for money? Was that hard for you?
So you have to remind yourself that you are raising money for something greater than yourself. Like, yes, you're investing in a campaign that has my name on it, but our values speak to something much greater. And I think when you frame it in that sense, in the case of your attorneys, framing the sense of, like, when you pay this retainer, like, it increases the opportunity to win and to be successful, and then there'll be a huge benefit from that, right? So though it is uncomfortable, I think it's reminding yourself that as long as you're not exploiting people and it's a reasonable ask, that it's adding to a bigger effort.
It really gets disappointing sometimes when you see Washington, D.C. and just like the constant fight.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really can be absurd. And you can really get dragged down by all the fighting up there. I get a sense Tallahassee might not be quite as bad as D.C. How do they compare?
So I would agree with that assessment. For me, I ground myself in the needs of our people. So even when there's like hours on the House floor and we are debating bills well past midnight, I just think about our district and the constituents who need me to do this, and how we're the facilitator for their voice in the process. With that said, as someone who identifies as a progressive, I think it's important to be as inclusive as possible. And that means talking to our Republican colleagues. That means talking to my businesses, whether small or big. Now, of course, we're always going to have differences, but you build bridges where you can, and then you hold people accountable when you must. And we have absolutely walked that line in the legislature. And, yesterday I was on the phone with a Republican colleague. I was on the phone again with someone else today talking about potential co-sponsors of bills. So I think you get what you give. And I just do my part to represent Central Florida and our efforts to be as bipartisan as possible.
When you first walk into that Capitol building and you see your name placed there, your name tag or whatever right there, Anna Eskamani, what do you think? How do you feel?
I think about my mom.
Right.
Yeah, I really do. My middle initial V is my mom's maiden name. And actually, someone today asked me what the V stood for
Right.
because it's kind of most first names don't start with the V. And so I think about my family and all the work that they've done for us to even be here today, and all the kids coming after us that we gotta pave a path for.
Beautiful. All right, plenty more with Anna Eskamani coming up just ahead. Let's say you are elected to state government. You have to go spend half of the year basically up in Tallahassee. Surely they pay for your apartment, right? Let's ask Anna that question right on the other side of this break. It is Behind the Law, ESPN 580 Orlando.
That eye roll told me that maybe you don't have an apartment up in Tallahassee too.
What?
I mean, they give you a pretty small stipend.
It's but it's not very. I mean, it's
They're
not
like,
very
here's a
big.
box.
Well, you have to find your own place.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. And
Decorate
Right.
this box. You're right.
I actually know some of her.
But we know names.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
I don't want her late for class.
Thank you.
Now back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, right here on ESPN 580 Orlando.
Welcome back to the program. Justin Clark here with you, the beautiful Brianna. Hi, Brianna. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
321-282-105. I think we skipped the news and everything. We were so excited to have you on it today. We skipped the news, but I guess we probably should address the hurricane that's coming
I was like, I was so
through.
excited to talk about.
So I sent Pilar to Publix to, do the old buy some waters and chips thing. And she said the water's already gone and all this. So
wow.
I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Any predictions on this hurricane? What's going to happen? Are we gonna?
I'm taking it pretty seriously.
I am too.
Yeah.
And I always do. Anna Eskamani's here, by the way. She's your state House of Representatives from the 47th district, I
Fighting
believe.
47.
But what is your theory? I'm interested to hear what both of you think on evacuation. Do you get out of town or do you stay and ride it out?
So I think based on past hurricanes, we really should try to escape.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, as a lawmaker, I feel a unique responsibility
Sure.
to stay because I don't want to be away from
Yeah.
recovery efforts. So, maybe going I have the opportunity to go to an emergency location and help in that way. But if you're an everyday folks, I think you should probably, if you have an evacuation plan, you should use it.
See, I agree with you 100%, but no one else in my family does.
Oh no.
They make fun of me so
Oh no!
hard. I'm like, look, of course we're leaving. Let's consider it like a little weekend trip. My 7-year-old calls me loser. She's like, you're such a wuss, Daddy. What are you doing? No, we're staying and riding this one out.
Oh my gosh, I like her.
So I will stay for sure, but I want to go. But they simply won't let me go. So anyway, but we do wish you guys well, and I feel like it's one of those that it started out as nothing. They're like, oh, this is going to be a nothing, when it's always those that will sneak up on us and
Literally.
get us. So
Totally. I was actually planning to go to a wedding in Puerto Rico, but now I'm
wow.
rethinking my plans.
rethink
Yeah.
that wedding.
I know. Well,
Yeah, I
the
don't-
wedding seems like it's still happening, but I don't know if
Really?
I'm going to be there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think that might be a.
Hopefully at least
I'm
move it
not
indoors
trying
or
to say good
something.
excuse to
Right.
get out of going to the wedding, because I'm sure you wanted to go, but no one likes to put on a suit on a Saturday anyway.
Oh,
All right.
true story.
So we were talking a little bit about Tallahassee, right? So
Yeah.
you're elected to Tallahassee, and then now you got to go up there and find a place to stay. I would
Yeah.
think about pilots, and pilots and flight attendants, they always have a crash pad in certain cities.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that bad, or do you get your own place?
So everything moves really fast, right? So we were elected November 6th, sworn in November 20th, and then session started with committee weeks in December. And so you already got to figure out where you're going to stay, right? And so legislature does give you a stipend to help with cost of living. They also will reimburse you for mileage traveled, but we're very conservative about it. We only charge travel to and from Tallahassee.
Right.
And even finding a place is really tough, Justin, because you want to find a place that's furnished, something that's close to the capital so that you can get there really fast, on tight deadlines. And we actually found a house that 5 of us live in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we found a house off Calhoun Street. If folks know Tallahassee, it's right behind Hotel Duval. And it's like an old mansion from like the 1800s. And 5 of us live there. I share a room with someone.
Wow.
And that's how we do it. That's literally how we do it.
It's like
and
a
so
hostel.
It is. Yeah. It's literally a hostel. It's like myself, another legislator, and then staff. And
Right.
and then my twin sister too, who works in politics. So we live together when we're in Tallahassee.
What's it like at night? I mean, do you guys all hang out together? You go to dinner together?
So
What's
there definitely is a Tallahassee night scene. To be honest, Justin, I don't really participate as much.
Yeah.
I'm in my office. I'm hustling.
Really?
Yeah. There's folks who go to the bars all the time, but I eat at my desk and I'm working late into the night for this district.
Oh, good deal. So, all right, we were talking about reaching out to the other side of the aisle. Washington seems like it's always just a big fight. Tallahassee maybe a little bit better, but I can't help but I saw a picture with you and a good friend of mine the other day, Joel Greenberg, who obviously a Republican.
Good friend, huh?
I like Joel very much. I saw you guys on a lunch date. How does that happen?
Yeah. Joel and I have had a very interesting journey. Because Joel and I first met when he had posted something really offensive, inappropriate on social media about Muslim Americans. And so our paths crossed because I had stood up and said, asked him to apologize. And before I knew it, I'm on the phone with Joel Greenberg late at night, like trying to help negotiate peace.
Yeah.
And it has absolutely struck into, a really curious friendship, I think.
Yeah.
So
I always call Joel the unofficial leader of the Republican Party in Seminole
Oh,
County. No
that's
doubt about
funny.
it.
Yeah, no
and-
doubt about that.
And
I
he came
agree.
straight out of nowhere politics.
He
So, I mean, he
did.
was absolutely
He
not
did.
involved in politics whatsoever.
did.
But he really
Absolutely.
is doing a good job up there. And he really knows how to get people together. No doubt about it.
Oh, sure, for sure. And to his credit, I think he's been really intentional in trying to show up in spaces and kind of repair, relationships that his rhetoric definitely hurts.
Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect. And I think that there are still folks that, no matter what the situation is, and it's very hard for them to forgive. And I respect and understand that.
Sure.
But
I
again,
know he didn't mean it, by the way.
Totally.
I know he did not mean it.
Well,
the
in
way
my
it came
role
across.
as a lawmaker, like I must lead with empathy. Like that is always my approach. And so when Joel Greenberg wants to meet with me, and that was actually our first face-to-face meeting. We'd had phone calls before then. I'm not going to reject that opportunity because I do think that my constituents count on me to lead by example. And it was funny because we picked a location in District 47 because partly it was just my schedule, and I was like, I will do this if you come to the
You
district.
gotta come to me.
Yeah, exactly. And so we went to a place called Badass Sandwich,
Oh, yeah.
really good place off Primrose, and it was funny because there were so many constituents that recognized me, and I was like, yeah, this is Joe Greenberg. He once insulted me and threatened me online. And, it was like amazing icebreaker. And again, like, I think to just be authentic about it and say, like, yeah, like, we had a rocky start, but here we are, like, literally breaking bread. So to honor that and to, lift that up, I think it's important for, especially modeling for the next generation of leaders.
Sure.
Like, we have to teach others that this is possible.
Absolutely. It's Behind the Law, ESPN 580 Orlando. Justin Clark here. The beautiful Brianna, who's been quiet so far. Are you nervous, Brianna? What
I'm
is it?
listening.
I mean, are you nervous that
The
you have the
quietest
beautiful
person
Anna
in the
Eskamani
room.
here today?
Means their ears are
She's
open.
listening. Yeah.
So when you are first elected, I mean, you have to really balance life a little bit because you do have to spend some time in Tallahassee. How much time during the year do you really have to spend up there?
So we're there for 60 days straight during session. And then we had about 4 to 5 committee weeks building up to it. And we came home every single weekend, which not every person does. And to be honest, it's tough to do. But we just have so many events in the district and want to make sure we're connected with our community here. So we would drive back every weekend as well.
So when you're here, when you're back in your district, do you spend a lot of time in your office? Can people come in and ask you questions? How does it
Absolutely.
work?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. So this again is a contrast to the notion of part-time legislature because I'm in my office all the time, or I am out in the district taking tours, meeting with constituents, answering phone calls. We are fortunate to have a team. It's a small team. I have a legislative aide and a district secretary. So this workload we all try and manage together, but there's no hat that I don't wear with the team. And so even before I came here, I was at the office, doing emails. constituents actually have my cell number. When you email me, you get an automatic response that includes my phone number that says if this is an emergency, like call or text me. Because the reality is we get so many emails all the time that I'm worried that I could miss an emergency if folks aren't proactive in contacting me directly. So a lot of times I'll get late night text messages. And something else too, Justin, is we've been visiting prisons in the state of Florida. And as a state lawmaker, I can visit state prisons unannounced. And so I've done it twice so far, and it's so interesting how that catalyzes not only the incarcerated contacting you, but their families contacting you. So our reach really does extend beyond the lines of District 47. We have family that calls us and emails us and texts us, tweets at us from across the state.
Really? How have you adjusted going from really being a private figure to you are a public figure now? How have you adjusted?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it cool?
I take it day by day, right? Like, I definitely think there's the notion of, like, there is no privacy. Like, it was so funny. I remember coming home at, like, 9:30 at night after a long day. I'm, like, dragging my book bag, right? Like, I was come back from class or something, and then someone just says, "Hey, are you Rep Eskamani?" And it's like in the middle of the dark, you know? And I turn around, and it's a constituent walking his dog, and he's like, "I walk by your house all the time. I never get to see you." And you know, we had like a moment. So there's the reality that like you always have to be on and readily available, and that comes with a deep sense of responsibility, which I'm so proud and honored to uphold. But you know, if you're someone who really prefers to have like quiet time, this is not the role for you. Like even when I'm traveling, like I once did, I kid you not, I went to San Francisco for a conference this summer, which by the way, had no idea San Francisco was so cold in July.
Oh yeah, it
no
can be
idea.
at
I
night
was
a little bit.
clueless.
That breeze comes get you.
I was clueless, and this was when President Trump was announcing his re-election kickoff in Orlando. So I'm like dealing with this as I'm on the plane's about to take off, and I'm talking to reporters and trying to like let people know this is happening. And then I land and I get a radio interview request. I do an interview behind one of the columns on the Golden Gate Bridge because it was the only place that wasn't windy.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like ducked, like trying to do this radio interview on my cell phone. And so it's just, again, one of those reminders of like, this is not a life for every person. Because if you want those pauses, it's hard to find it.
I hope it wasn't as long form as this interview. It's Behind the Law, ESPN 580 Orlando. Little sports ahead and plenty more. Coming up on the other side of this break with Anna Eskamani. We'll be right back. All right.
Between the two of you,
Hey, watch it, man.
none of you are breathing, okay? You guys are not breathing. I'm like, how are they able to talk that long without taking a breath? What is happening? I'm literally, I'm almost done. Like, I never finished the show, and here I am, almost at the bottom. Doesn't ask a question like this. I wouldn't have guessed for that one.
You need triple defense here.
Very little bit, like friends.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, essentially for free, you know?
I know that. They have to be that it's free.
Yeah, I know the names. Yeah.
So we're like in that world.
I have a question.
All right, you ready?
I do know one.
All right, 2 more segments. So we'll be done at 5:20. You should get down there.
This is Behind the Law with Justin Clark on ESPN 580 Orlando.
Welcome back to the show. Justin Clark here with you. The beautiful Brianna is to my right on the blue microphone. Hi, Brianna. How are you?
Hey, Justin.
So you have a question now for Anna. Finally,
ready.
during the break, she told
Finally.
me that she had a question, but I wouldn't shut up. I mean, you didn't say it in that exactly that phrase, but I mean, that's essentially what you said.
Yeah.
I said neither. Of you.
We are joined. we are joined today by Anna Eskamani, a fantastic lady who's you're a congressperson if you're in the 47th district. That's basically downtown Orlando or what?
Downtown Orlando, Winter Park, and Belle Isle.
Okay,
so I'll be
gotcha.
your state house rep.
Wait, aren't you Belle Isle?
I do live in Belle
Oh,
Isle.
wow.
Holla.
You're my
So-
representative.
Yeah, absolutely. We go all the way down to Belle Isle. Yeah,
So you
I
can
love
st-
the South Side.
You can start harassing Anna about, I
All you
don't
need.
know,
Literally.
All you
roads,
need.
whatever you want. Sounds good. All right, go ahead, Brianna.
Yeah, I want to know what are some topics that you're just really passionate about?
Totally. So quite a few actually, and I think that's something else too in my life is like it's so hard just to focus on that one issue, but I am grounded every day in the needs of working people. So whether it's like economic security, ensuring that we have racial justice, access to healthcare, good schools, good roads, like I think those are foundational to us. And it's funny, as a lawmaker who served one session, I think your passions also evolved to want to understand more issues. And let me be clear, I don't serve on any committees that I recommended for myself. Like I did my committees of my preference list. I got none of them.
Really?
None of them. And the reality is I'm a freshman Democrat in a legislative body that's majority Republican. So you don't get what you want. I have a terrible parking spot. I have a seat only in the back on the chamber floor. So they do everything to make you really like make things difficult, right? And so in that case, like I serve on Ways and Means, which is where all of Florida's taxes are discussed. And I have little experience in taxation beyond filing taxes, but I'm 29, so I've barely done that part of my life. But I've had to learn a lot about taxes. And so now, to answer your question, like I care a lot about Florida's tax system and making sure it's not regressive and that we have a system that doesn't benefit the largest corporations, but actually supports our small businesses and that, it's a system of equity. And we have enough revenue to pay for social service that we all need and deserve. And one other issue, too, I want to toss out to the audience is climate change and renewable energy. So we just this week actually refiled our 100% renewable energy goals bill, which would have Florida set a goal to be 100% renewable by 2050. And I think that's critically important for the sustainability of our state to make sure we curb climate change impact, but also it's about resiliency and national security because we got to move off any type of oil. We're spending so much money overseas protecting countries just because of oil. So it's also this external cost. There's clean air that's at stake. And now Moody's Financial has actually acquired a research firm, a firm that researches the impact of climate change. Because when they're going to be doing credit assessment for cities or any entity that takes a bond out, they're actually going to put into consideration, are you ready for climate change? Have you put in efforts to curb the impact of climate change? So it impacts us financially too.
So what do we do? I mean, what can we do renewable energy wise what are some things we can do?
Florida is primed up for solar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're the Sunshine State. And believe it or not, it is not one of our main sources of energy. We're still stuck on natural gas and coal. And so I think solar is primed up for us. Other states have potential for wind, but I think Florida's best shot is going to be solar. And also moving away from fossil fuels in our vehicles and moving towards energy and electric vehicles. So being able to plug in cars and have more plug-in stations and lowering down the cost of electric vehicles so more folks can afford them.
One of my good friends runs a company called IQ Power Solar, and they do solar for residential, And
Yeah.
and he's always brings up a good point to me. He's like, I don't understand. My electric bill is $500 a month for my house. I mean,
Yikes.
how have they convinced us that it's just normal?
Oh, yeah. And is it Duke? Who's your?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But it just automatically comes out of my account every month. No big deal.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's just what it costs. While you're in
No, it's
Florida.
unreasonable.
But if you get solar on your house, and I know this is probably not even what you're talking about, solar on your house, your electric bill goes down to like $30 a month.
It does.
But
Actually,
we don't really
you could
do
even you could even give back to the grid
Right.
and get a credit for
Yeah.
it. Yeah. No, that's spot on. I mean, if we were to do 100% renewable energy goals for the state of Florida by 2050, what that means is that we would have to look at a portfolio of options. I do think one of those options is rooftop solar.
Yeah.
And so how do we incentivize more homeowners to build rooftop solar? Because it is an expensive initial investment. And if you don't have an ROI on it, return on investment, you're not going to be willing to do it. So there's a lot of wonkiness in this type of formula. But at the end of the day, protecting ROI for consumers is really important. And I think pushing investor-only utility companies, and that's Duke Energy, that's Florida Power and Light, that's TECO Energy, pushing these monopolies to actually require that you need to be sustainable and have renewable energy by X date, right? So I think we have to mandate that for it to actually become reality.
I just don't know how they've convinced us that it's normal to pay that much every month.
Where else do you go, Justin?
Yeah,
That's
I know.
the reality of it, is that if you don't pay Duke Energy, then where do you get your power from? Like, that's the harsh reality of monopolies.
I mean, we'll bitch about $70 for Wi-Fi.
Oh,
But we're okay at $40 or $400 for electricity.
Well, and let's be real. These are major political donors.
Yeah.
So Duke Energy, Florida Power and Light, they're also making huge political contributions. We don't take any of their money, but that's reality. And so when you talk to most lawmakers, they might be nervous to say anything about it because they take those donations too.
I gotcha. All right, it's Behind the Law, ESPN 580 Orlando. Justin Clark here, the beautiful Brianna. We're talking to Anna Eskamani. All right, so you get elected, right? And you walk into that chamber up in Tallahassee for the very first time. We've got some guys and gals who have been in there for many, many years, right?
Yeah.
And you're there for the first day.
Yeah.
Do they treat you okay? Or they kind of take you under their wing, or they kind of like shun you? What's it like?
I think it varies.
Yeah.
A lot of people have called me the Florida AOC.
Oh, yeah?
And it depends who says that to you, right? Because if it's coming from Democrats, it's probably a compliment. If it's coming from Republicans, that means
Definitely
they're
not.
dismissing you.
Right.
Yeah. And so I tell folks all the time, I'm like, it's actually AVE, so get it right. And just doing my best to define who we are on our own with our colleagues. And so I will say, I think in the beginning of session, there were a lot of assumptions about me, like Republicans assuming that I'm a bomb thrower, that I'm just there to embarrass people or ask really hard questions to get you on the spot. Not to say those moments don't happen for all of us. My Republican colleagues do the same to Democratic colleagues on different issues. But I take a lot of pride in again, pushing back against efforts to label myself and to really speak to who we are as a community, because I am not just there as Anna Eskamani, I'm there as District 47 and our values and what we care about. So do my best to amplify that every day.
These old 2-year terms, I mean, they kind of fly by. I mean, Anna, it's time almost to start campaigning hardcore again. Can you believe that? And are you ready?
I gotta be ready. It's funny you say that. Actually, I've been, putting together the pieces to announce our 2020 reelection kickoff event, and I have not even been serving for a year, and we already have to do this.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it is exhausting, but I tell myself every day, like, this was a commitment that I made, and so I'm a little deeply loyal person. So we're just keep doing it, and we're gonna hopefully demonstrate to other everyday people that they can do it too.
Future goals. I mean, someone like you who has the ability to, for whatever reason, make people really are attracted to you. I mean, that's the way I see it. That's my honest assessment, is people gravitate towards you. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's no doubt that something higher than the state level could be achieved by you if you want to. Do you have aspirations for something bigger?
What are you really asking, Justin?
I'm not
that
looking
question
for
is loaded.
Running for president. No.
Is that what you're asking?
So-
And you're only 29 years old, too. I mean,
I know.
you are young.
I know. Thank you. I'm going on 45, though, let me tell you. It's, I take it day by day. I am very focused on the Florida House and of the good we can do in the Florida House. So I have the ability to serve up to 8 years there. And if the district trusts me to keep doing a good job, then they'll keep sending me back. After that, the world is ours.
Yeah.
I will say that this was a funny Florida politics article because I had intentionally purchased some URLs just for safekeeping. And less about what I might run for, but more about preventing trolls from purchasing them. Because
Yeah.
that's the harsh reality in politics.
Of
You got to
course.
always watch your back. And so I purchased things like Anna for Congress and Anna for America. And again, it's not to say those plans are happening, but you just got to protect these URLs, and they're
Trolls
super
were
cheap
gagging.
to buy. Oh yeah. They're just like probably just typing fiercely on their laptops and like commenting on their 8chan threads. But yeah, I mean, you got to think of the future for sure.
One more segment ahead with Anna Eskamani right on the other side of this very short break. It's Behind the Law, ESPN 580 Orlando. I think that's what it is. Yeah. No, because you can't.
What was
Yeah.
the keyword?
I said you bitch. Yeah. Oh, really?
Wait, what did she say?
All right, you ready? Let me get my clock.
Now back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, right here on ESPN 580 Orlando.
One final segment ahead. It's Justin Clark, Behind the Law. Great interview today with Anna Eskamani. Anna, thanks for being here, first of all. I know
Oh,
you're
it's a
very
pleasure.
busy. You're only in the Florida, you're a Florida representative. Full-time job.
Yeah.
And now going to school as well to get your
Yeah.
PhD. That's it? Anything else?
And campaigning.
Oh, and campaigning. Yeah, no big deal.
Raising those dollars.
The beautiful Brianna was so kind enough during the break to ask me permission if she could ask you a question. I don't know what's going on today.
I'll throw something at
By,
you.
by all means, the floor is yours, Brianna.
Is it really? I'm going to hand the floor right back to Anna.
Okay.
So just how can people get involved? They're listening and they feel compelled, because you are doing a lot right
Absolutely.
now. You're stretched about 45 different ways. So,
Well, and our power is grounded in people power.
all right. So
for sure.
let us know how we can get involved.
So many ways. So my first thought is, if you want to get involved with us and keep up with what we're doing, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, not Twitch, but YouTube.
Got to be on Twitch, man.
But YouTube. And so it's just Representative Anna Eskamani and then Anna for Florida on all those other outlets. So keep in touch with us. Send us direct messages. See what events we have coming up. We did 5 town halls in June.
Oh, wow.
We'll have many more town halls coming. And then this greater question of how do I get involved in civics and activism, I think it's identifying what you're passionate about and then finding organizations that reflect that passion. So I mentioned to folks early on that I worked at Planned Parenthood, and my Planned Parenthood story started as a patient and then as a volunteer and then as a staff member. So getting involved, whether you care about animal rights or maybe you're really active in your church community, whatever it is, get involved in that space and know that every personal issue has political implications. So identifying the policy that can be connected to your work. And if we can be any help in connecting you to those organizations, we got your back. So you can always ask us for that help too.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Let's talk about Orlando for a minute. All right, let me give you my little history with Orlando. So I was in law school up in Boston, right? It was my second year. We were at a bar, of course. And I was talking to my buddy, and I was like, where are you from? He said, oh, I'm from Orlando. This is 2003.
Wow.
And when he said he's from Orlando, I didn't really believe him because people who aren't from here, we have this vision of Orlando, of Disney World, and
Yeah.
just being a tourist destination.
Yeah.
And then I left Boston and moved down to Miami. And then in 2006, the guy I was working for in Miami wanted to open a central location for the law firm. He sent me up to Orlando to open the office. And that's how I ended up here. Didn't know anyone here. What I found in Orlando is actually a pretty damn cool town with good restaurants. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think Orlando's a pretty cool place now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm with you. And I think it's such a young city that
Yeah.
it's still malleable, that we get to shape its direction, its future. I don't know if folks are any John Green fans out there, but John Green wrote the book Paper Towns. He's originally had roots in Orlando. And Paper Towns takes place in Orlando and talks about how Orlando was a paper town in the sense that it was fake and could just blow over. There was no real character. And I would argue that we're not made out of paper anymore. Like we're made out of some serious infrastructure that's not just grounded in our cities and the physical buildings around us, but people who have really added so much in the arts, in law, in food, in their cultural identities. Like just how we came together after Pulse nightclub and continue to want to be better as partners of inclusivity. I really do think it speaks to what makes Orlando so special, and I hope that more and more young professionals especially stay in Orlando versus leave, because I think it's that generational impact that gives you a long-range vision that can really push a city in the right direction.
I totally agree. Have you found yourself getting asked out on way more dates since you've been in Tallahassee, or what? Has that increased or no?
Really funny. So it actually was pretty robust during the campaign trail.
Oh, yeah?
I got people DMing me all the time. And then after we won, marriage proposals, mostly from Iran, were coming. I know, it was really problematic. And I used to be on dating apps when I was younger, so like 2015. And once I it's a long story, but I closed my Tinder account back in 2015.
Everybody was swiping right
I had
then.
a very bad emoji experience, and so I won't go into it, but I was like, I need men who use words. And so I left that space. Yeah. But I will say that I actually am in a new relationship now, and I have not been in a relationship since 2014. And I'm just so lucky, you know, and I found someone that is like cares about politics too, and has been engaged in this work in a different way, but there's not a lot of like explaining that has to happen, right? And so and he also knows how freaking busy I am, and gets it, because I think my past relationships, I've always been a very committed person to my job, and folks have always felt neglected. And that's been my weakness in like having a long-term relationship. So I mean, now it's not going to happen, right? Because I'm in a relationship. But it's pretty funny when dating on the campaign trail. I just didn't do it. I actually had an accidental date.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where someone reached out to me and I thought it was just a meeting, and I even said a hard stop. Like I was like, yeah, sure. I can do 8 to 9, like in the morning. Like this was a morning meeting. And then he buys my food for me, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting, like sign. And then the conversation starts, and like he's sharing more of his personal life, and I'm like, this is interesting for a morning meeting. Yeah, exactly. And then by the end of it, he asked if he can see me again. I was like, under what context?
Right.
What do you mean you live in Longwood?
I know, it was so funny. I know, and so those moments happened a lot where I thought I was walking into like a very professional meeting, and I'm like, okay, no, boundaries. I'm sorry. Like I got to define this for us,
Got it.
So, but I think now there's, you have to be very, very clear on just sexual harassment in these places, right? Politics is a very male-dominated field, and I think folks are more sensitive after the Me Too movement really hit its threshold. But I think it's all on us to create safe spaces for every person, and to call out inappropriate behavior when we see it. So that's always a constant for us.
It's Behind the Law, ESPN 580 Orlando. Justin Clark here. Anna Eskamani joins me today. So you were the first what?
Iranian American elected to any public office in Florida.
Which is great. But then I think maybe some people lose sight of just how entrenched you have been, and you've grown up in Orlando as well, have you not? Didn't you go to high school here and everything?
Yeah, I went to public school K through 12, UCF for my bachelor's, my master's, now my PhD. So I really do believe black and gold. My dad went to UCF in '94. So yeah, I mean, Iranian American by birth, absolutely, but I'm an Orlando native in my heart always.
And this PhD program you're in is downtown UCF now. How is that going down there with this downtown campus?
So my first time actually walking on it now that's been completed. So far, student feedback has been pretty positive, but I think it's going to take time for us to get used to it. There's going to be more traffic. There's going to be the need for less bars and more under 21 activities, because a lot of these students are going to be under 21. So I think we're going to see a transformation downtown. They're going to see a new culture kind of be born. It's something even perhaps more family friendly, which I think is a good thing for us.
I'm looking forward to that.
Even though she just started. I mean, the 2-year term goes by pretty quickly, and these campaigns require money, and it requires bodies to help. Let's say that I'm listening right now, Anna, and I want to get involved. I want to help your campaign. What can I do to help?
So you can go to annaforflorida.com and you can sign up to volunteer or make a donation there. And to your point, Justin, we flipped this seat because we raised $523,000 from 4,000 donations and has 600 volunteers help us knock on 40,000 doors.
It was such a pleasure to meet you. I wish you nothing but success. We're always here for you if you ever need me. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you to both of you.
And good luck with that PhD program.
I'll take all the luck.
For the beautiful Brianna, that's been Anna Eskamani. My name is Justin Clark. The name of the show is Behind the Lawn. And Brianna, I don't know much, but I do know one little thing.
What's that?
I will see you right back here tomorrow night on ESPN 580 Orlando. All right.